kind of system that gives you those video recordings, you have to notice that people don't sit there and go to your header image and they look around and they're like, oh, look at that, and look at what they did over here in the cool graphic and thing. The only person that did that was the person that actually created the graphic in the first place. Welcome back to Discussing Stupid, everyone. As always, I'm your host, Virgil Carroll from High Monkey, and with me today is...
Chad Heinley, also from High Monkey.
And Cole Schlotthauer, also from High Monkey.
Well, we're officially into spooky season, and I see we got some of our costumes on. We just got 2 days until Halloween, so I'm quite excited about it. Got the kid ready to go out trick-or-treating. How about you, Chad?
We're doing a full family Star Wars themed costume extravaganza, nice. So it's nice. Getting pretty wild over here.
Sweet. Who are you going to be?
Well, I will of course be Han Solo, my wife Princess Leia, and the kids have chosen Darth Vader and a stormtrooper. So apparently there was a stormtrooper somewhere in the story.
And Cole, you have to tell us, what is the younger generation doing?
Just trick-or-treating. No, not really. I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going to be working on my golf game, if you can guess what my costume is.
Oh, well, I know you're not Tiger Woods because I've seen you golf.
That's actually true.
All right, well, perfect. Well, Cole, why don't you go ahead and let everybody know kind of what our topic's going to be for today?
Yeah, so today we're going to be talking about page performance and SEO, but more specifically when it comes to how using oversized images on your site affects that.
Oh, that's a great topic.
Yeah, so to kind of tee things off here, no pun intended.
Oh, Stop.
Okay. Can you guys think of any examples of stupid practices you've seen in the past along these lines?
Well, there actually is one that comes to mind when I think about it. Quite a few years ago, images issues have been such a long part of the world of the web. But one thing I think of is, like I said, many years ago, we had a collegiate client that had an enrollment page. And that enrollment page is what everybody in the various colleges use to start their enrollment process each semester for college. And they came to us because there was a problem that page, when they first launched it at the beginning of the enrollment period, would constantly crash their entire website, their content management system, and they could never quite figure out what it was. And when we stepped in and kind of helped look at it a little bit, we found that one of the biggest issues was they just had their logo, nothing fancy, but it was a high resolution, very large image. I think it was like 5 megabyte file, where on today's high speed, that might not be a big deal. For them, it was a huge deal because you're not talking about just one person loading up their browser and downloading that 5 megabyte file, but you're talking about thousands at the same time. And so that was basically crushing their system. So, that's probably the biggest thing we see out of images a lot, is that most internal organizations don't really understand how to optimize images and how to really deal with that load time. And that not only affects page performance, but for all those SEO people out there, that actually affects your SEO, because Google and the other services actually grade where you're going to rank in their search engine results and everything from that.
And just continuing along those lines, the thing about large images is it's real easy to shrink them using CSS so that it looks smaller, but people don't always understand that that's not making the file size smaller. You've still got that large 5 megabyte, 10 megabyte image, and if lots of people are loading it, you're going to have those problems. So it's real important, and what we teach our clients all the time is to resize them physically using some software, and then upload them and load them onto the site.
Well, and you also have all those what you see is what you get tools that you kind of just drag and drop. You just drag and then you drag it smaller. You're not actually making the image size smaller. You're just making it show up on the screen less.
And write in a bunch of content management systems. It's the same thing. You can type in image dimensions, but you're not actually shrinking an image. You're just resizing the scale. So we get, large headshots that are 2,000, 3,000 pixels tall that end up being 200 pixels on the website, but it's still a giant professional photo that was taken.
Yep. And how many times did we see that in mobile?
All the time. That's that sizing down for mobile is really where we get a lot of problems, and it's a balance. We want to have images on mobile, keep the site engaging, but just shrinking an image, not considering how that'll affect mobile performance is really a hot button topic. And I know that's one that you, Virgil, have a lot of opinions about. So
Yes,
I'll kind of
yes.
let you go off on that a little bit.
We might just have to do a whole episode on that and kind of learning about image sizes and serving up correctly for that. But, one of the things that I always kind of laugh at is I think that so many people in the design world and the marketing world kind of get very worked up about, the images we use and how many are on the page and everything else like that. When in reality, if you actually look at the way people look at your sites, people don't pay that much attention to images. And I know I just, stabbed, at least 1,000 marketers through the heart, and I'm sorry. But the reality is, if you've ever loaded a product like Microsoft Clarity or Hotjar or some kind of system that gives you those video recordings, you have to notice that people don't sit there and go to your header image and they look around and they're like, oh, look at that. And look at what they did over here in the cool graphic and thing. The only person that did that was the person that actually created the graphic in the first place. Everybody else is just like, oh, there's a header image. Just let me scroll down. So when these have a huge impact in there and people really don't pay attention to them, you're basically creating a lot of effort to add something visually, which is, sometimes a good thing. But at the same time, people really don't care about that.
So yeah, a lot of good discussion there and some really stupid practices. But let's kind of shift the focus here to the good practices in this area. So, Virgil, would you mind giving us a better idea of what image optimization really looks like?
Sure, Cole. Let me go ahead and share my screen and maybe I can give an example to everybody and that'll kind of help.
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay, so let me go ahead and start. One of our favorite tools we like to use is a tool called Riot. It's a free open source tool called Radical Image Optimization Tool. It's actually one that they ask if you to give a donation, but if you use it for commercial use like we do, it does ask you for a massive $12 donation, which we gladly pay because it's such a great tool and the author of it keeps it up to date. But I'm not going to show you a lot about the tool itself, but I just kind of want to use it as a guide to kind of let you be able to look at these kind of things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab our album cover art and I'm going to go ahead and drag it onto the screen. And one of the first things that you're going to say is it's letting me know that this is a high resolution image. And do I want to resize it? And we'll go ahead and hit yes. And you can see that this image is coming in at about 3,000 by 3,000, which no one should ever want to put an image on their website that's 3,000 by 3,000. If you do this, you and I need to have a conversation because that's just not the way things should work. So I should reduce this down aside. Chad, what's usually a good size to do for a square image on a web page? Like the biggest size?
Yeah, let's go with maybe 800 for a content size image.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start with 800, okay? So we'll go ahead and do that, and you can see that I now have my original image here, which is actually sitting at 2.2 megabytes, so quite large for a web file. And then you see that I have my optimized image here, which is just 127 kilobytes, so significantly smaller. You can see that I can select kind of the type of it. We're not going to go into the different types, but one of the things I kind of wanted to show is kind of the difference between these two images. So if you look at the image on your left and you really look at the quality of the textures and everything and kind of how that works, and then you look at the image on your right, Cole, can you let me know what differences you see there?
Yeah, I don't see any differences.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's one of the biggest points we want to make is that a lot of times people think optimizing an image is going to greatly reduce the quality. And yes, you can do settings to greatly reduce the quality of an image. But overall, optimization technology, the compression algorithms have gotten so good that now we can make files really small compared to their original size, yet keep the overall image quality. If somebody was looking under a microscope or magnifying it by a lot, you might notice some subtle differences. But to the naked eye, somebody just looking at it, they're never going to really know those differences. And so from there, you have to ask, why do we worry so much about that? Why do we do that stuff when we have the technology now basically to make these file sizes very small, yet at the same time, especially for a scroller on a mobile phone, they won't really notice any difference between that and the original image. Again, that kind of goes back to the designer.
Well, thanks, Virgil. That was some good stuff there. But why don't we get into some other good practices around images and page performance?
Sure. So, like I said, using tools like Riot or other tools like that, there's a plethora of tools out there. You can do a lot in the world of optimization, and Riot is something. I mean, you can also use it to do batch processing, but there's also a lot of sites out there that can do those processes automatically for you. There's developers that use APIs to do that process for you, and there's a lot of options. But overall, the point is not necessarily what service or tool you use, but it's more around just doing it. Another thing that I think of that has kind of grabbed the web world a little bit more over the last few years, but hasn't necessarily gained the traction that I'd hope, is kind of the concept of an organization setting a page budget. So if you're doing a web redesign or you're building a website for a first time, or you're doing some type of internal thing, really kind of understanding what type of people you're serving up, what kind of internet connection they have and all that kind of stuff. And then setting a page budget and basically saying, okay, so let's say that our page budget was 300 kilobytes to load up this page. Then you'd have to look at it. So if an image is going to take up 150 kilobytes of that, you've only got 150 left. So now if you got a bunch of text, that's perfectly fine. But if you have something like you're going to have a cool animation, you're going to have a video on there and all these other things, you might be going over that. So you kind of are setting a page weight budget basically, and then you're trying to get your org to stick with it.
And, I like to do less work most of the time. So some of my favorite things to bring up are going to be reducing the number of images on the page in general. That's less to optimize. That's less to go towards a page budget if you set that. It's lighter, it's easier, and it really it gets you focused on putting quality images instead of quantity. Hiding images on the mobile.
Keep seeing these crazy things, Chad.
I know it. Hiding images on mobile. You can sometimes even do this programmatically where you don't even load that image, but just reducing that scroll height. If you've got a big page with lots of images, you're going to be scrolling for a while, and it's not a great experience.
Well, and again, if you've ever used any of those visual tools to be able to actually see how users use mobile, people do the thumb. They scroll, they scroll, they scroll. They don't tend to stop at things that they don't care about. And again, I'm still hurting designers' feelings, but that's the reality.
Yeah, it's very action oriented, where you're going on your phone, you're trying to get to something, especially if you're on a website. If you're on Facebook, maybe you're just scrolling. But if you're on a site, you're trying to do something, get some information, do some action on there. And really just on the same topic as mobile, finding that balance like we talked about earlier, that mobile desktop balance. So keeping a site engaging, we totally get it. You sometimes need those images, you need those design elements, you need that data on there sometimes, but just keeping a keen eye on what you actually need, how big does it actually need to be, where does it actually need to be placed, instead of just going hog wild on it.
And honestly, if anybody listened to our first episode, I mean, we kind of talked about it, an image is having a purpose and not just being there always for decorative. It's not that decorative is not important, but sometimes you need to look at it from the practicality of what people are trying to do in that. So that's all great stuff.
Well, I suppose that about wraps things up. Thanks, guys. That was some good discussion here.
Yeah, I think that people are going to probably start noticing a theme with our stuff, and it's not that we're going to talk about images all the time, but this is kind of amazing how this is one thing that people just tend to mess up a lot and do a lot of bad practices. I'm sorry, let me put that back. Stupid practices on there. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate you joining me, and I can already feel us starting to move this podcast forward and do it better in that. So thank you everybody for joining, and we'll see you next time.
And happy Halloween.
Just a reminder, we'll be dropping new episodes every 2 weeks. If you enjoyed the discussion today, we would appreciate it if you hit the like button and leave us a review or comment below. And to listen to past episodes or be notified when future episodes are released, visit our website at www.discussingstupid.com and sign up for our email updates. Not only will we share when each new episode drops, but also we'll be including a ton of good content to help you in discussing stupid in your own organization. Of course, you can also follow us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SoundCloud, or really any of the other favorite podcast platforms you might use. Thanks again for joining, and we'll see you next time.